Hello, friends. If you or a loved one has been struggling with a chronic or complex health problem and have been disappointed with the level of care available, get in touch with my friend Christian Yardanov. He is a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and author of 2 books. His first book was on autism and children's health, and he recently published the first volume on his series on longevity, How to Actually Live Longer, Volume 1. He's worked with clients with severe gut problems, toxicity, chronic fatigue, and he's helped people with autoimmune conditions, skin disorders, autism, multiple sclerosis, and folks with various metabolic conditions. He also advises people like myself who are in good health and are looking to keep it that way how to optimize things like cognitive function, exercise recovery, sleep, and much more. Christian works with clients remotely all over the world and uses advanced lab tests to help zero in on specific metabolic imbalances and challenges. The tests are shipped direct to your door. They're collected at home and picked up by a courier. Most doctors don't run these tests routinely because they either haven't been trained on using them, insurance won't cover them, or even both. Convenience for Christian's clients is a priority, so you will be in great hands. When you work with Christian, you'll also be able to chat directly with him in your dedicated client app, where you can access your personalized health protocols. He likes to work closely with his clients to ensure they have the support they need to achieve their health goals. It's like working with a functional practitioner and health coach at the same time. Some of his biggest areas of focus are helping clients mitigate stress and inflammation, improve detoxification and gut health, and optimize nutrition, supplementation, and environment, all based on your specific situation, lab work, lifestyle, and constraints. You can book a free intro call with Christian using the link in the description to see how he can help you restore your health. Make sure you mention FKN in the Where Did You Hear About Us field, and you'll receive bonus sessions, get access to a 13-hour detox workshop, and a copy of his latest book, How to Actually Live Longer, Volume 1, as well as a copy of Volume 2 when it comes out later this year. Also, if you are already in good health, but you want to look under the hood and run some lab work to check for imbalances and maybe improve your supplement program, Christian can also help you with that. Don't wait for something to go wrong before you focus on your health. Click that link in the description right now. Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Peter Kling. First, a few announcements. Join us May 15th through 20th in Blairsville, Georgia for the Befriending Bigfoot Excursion. They're going to have amazing presenters and researchers, including myself. This is put on by Brandon Thomas from Expanding Reality. He's going to have Bigfoot adventure hikes, kayaking, nightly presentations, sky watches, music, and much more. Just visit expandingrealitypodcast.com/events to find out more about the presenters and get your tickets for this incredible event. You can now watch the Forbidden documentary, Occult Louisiana, on Tubi. Go check that out. Give us some support. Other great ways to help support Forbidden Knowledge News. Go to rokfin.com/FKN+. Get yourself a premium membership. With that, you get access to all our premium content and all the premium content from every creator on Rokfin. If you'd like to help with production of the next film, you can leave a donation. Those links are in the description. Anything is greatly appreciated. You can also help by downloading our episodes directly through our podcast provider, Spreaker, that is always free to you. Finally, we are booking guests for May. If you would like to be a guest or you have suggestions, email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today, I want to welcome back to the show Peter Kling. He is author and researcher whose family has a 500-year history of standing for truth. He used his education and life experience to unlock the secrets in the scriptures, which the church has kept secret and hidden for over 1,000 years, including evidence of a history of interactions with interdimensional beings. Peter, welcome back. How you doing?
Very good, Chris. It's a pleasure being back. You know, I had a fantastic time on your show last time we sat down and chatted. I actually had quite a few people. I was surprised at the response I had as far as people requesting PDF copies of Letters to Earth, and I'm still going to make that available. We'll cover that at the end of the show.
That's great.
And yeah, it really was. I was surprised how many people, you know, actually said, "Hey, I want a copy of that. I want to read it." And thank you very much to everybody who has asked for a copy, and I'll give you the instructions on how to get your own copy later on in the show.
Great.
But before we actually get started,
yeah,
I did want to. You're having a guest in a couple of weeks, Maggie Hart, and I want to give a shout out to Maggie. She's a great person as far in what she does. She's a great person, period, but she's excellent at what she does, and she has personally helped me in a situation that my youngest son passed away 4 years ago, and somehow I lost 2 years of that just because of the grief and the anger that I had buried. And she actually, and my heart goes out to anybody who's lost any kind of relative, but especially those who have lost children, because part of you dies when you lose one of your children. You know, it's like half that child is half your DNA, and it's like it's not there anymore. And I didn't deal with that very good, because, you know, dealing with the baby of the family. And Maggie actually did an excellent job in having me comprehend the situation that I put myself in, and then get me out of it, and had me recall that, you know, those 2 years that I lost in my life just because I buried so much grief and anger and pain and all of those things. So, hey, if you're dealing with issues, get in touch with her. I've got her email here. It's Maggie, MAGGIE_Hart, HEART, @outlook.com. You can set up a private consultation with her, and I'm sure she'll be more than happy to help you with whatever issues you need to overcome. You know, she doesn't have all the letters after her name that your standard, you know, social worker, psychologist would have. She's got something much better. She has a spiritual outlook and a close connection to our Creator, and uses her knowledge in that arena to address issues that we have, as opposed to, well, Freud said, you know.
Yes.
So it's a much more practical way to help somebody. It's more of a holistic healing. She has a very great holistic approach of both healing, not just the mind, but the soul too, which is very important today. So with that being said, listen for her coming up. I'm sure Chris will advertise everything. You'll see her, no doubt, on all of your outlets. But I guess in about 2 weeks, you'll be having her as a guest.
Yes, yes.
So
And
where are we?
well, I'm looking forward to having Maggie. Thank you for that introduction. This is going to be a continuation of our last discussion about the connections between what is unfolding right now and biblical prophecy. And you've been a biblical scholar from a very young age. You have some very unique interpretations about these ancient texts and prophecies and how they connect to what we're seeing. And ever since I've awakened to the false control system, I've kept a close eye on the changes that are occurring. And although every generation probably has an end of days threat or fear or a looming apocalypse or major shift, this feels reality altering at times. And there are times I wonder if I've shifted into an alternate dimension with the high strangeness that's unfolding right now. So there's a lot going on. And I believe last time we left off discussing the possible upcoming chaos coinciding with elections. And earlier you mentioned you wanted to get into a little bit of who is really at the top and what we can do to navigate through some of the chaos upcoming. So where would you like to start today?
Oh, well, let's work from the top down.
All right.
But before we actually get into that, what we need to do is be prepared for what is coming this way. It's going to be a very difficult situation that we're facing. And if you want to get a little insight on it, read Matthew, the 24th chapter. It's all there. We will have a little bit of a respite coming on, but not quite yet. What we are actually having be fulfilled before our very eyes is we are between Revelation chapter 16 and going into chapter 17. Chapter 16, when you look at it closely, it's the fall of the Kazarian mafia, and I will explain that in a little bit. Chapter 17 is the rise of Apollyon, which essentially takes down the Kazarian mafia and religion, all religion. And religion, and I say this, I've never been a religious person. I've been a biblical scholar since my education started before I was 5 years old. By the time I was 5 years old, I had a total concept of what was written in the scriptures. I couldn't read, but I was being read too. And I had a very interesting book that was given to me at that age. And everything was laid out in pictures. So I could listen to what was being read. I could look at the pictures and I could get an idea on what was actually happening. And by the time I was 5 years old, I had a full concept of what was written in the scriptures. Didn't have an understanding of the scriptures, and certainly not the scientific understanding that I've built since then. But it's all there. The issue that we are facing today is the deception. There is deception in everything. And to find something that's actually true, even if you follow the truther movement, there's deception in the truther movement. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we can't let the enemy know what we really want to do. Well, if the enemy knew the scriptures, they would be able to know what you were going to do next. And we've heard this, it's a chess game. You make a move, I make a move, and sooner or later, I've got you would checkmate. And there's also the multi-level chess game. And that's really what's going on, because this isn't just a chess game between governments or politicians. This is a chess game that's being carried out on an interdimensional level. And we've got really three sides involved in this. We've got the Satanic Empire, which is currently ruling the events on Earth. And if you don't believe that, go look at child trafficking and what they do with children and the adrenochrome situation and all of that other stuff that goes with it. And right now, Hollywood is breaking down. And you're finding all your stars are involved either as victims or as perpetrators.
Yeah.
So, so itself, you want to be rich, you got to sign your soul to Satan. Mm-hmm. Well, that makes it kind of clear who you're working for, doesn't it? So when we look at, if we go back to Revelation 12, we actually have a couple of beasts which appear. One comes out of the sea. It's a 7-headed, 10-horned wild beast. 7 heads are always symbolizing the 7 world powers that have ruled this planet. So with what you said earlier, it's like every generation. Well, not quite every generation, but every time that there's been a shift in world power, great death has come to this planet. And so we're getting ready for another shift in world power. So in Revelation chapter 13, where we have this beast that ascends out of the sea, the sea is the unstable elements, and that beast that ascends out of the sea was a world power, first represented by the League of Nations. So who was behind the League of Nations? You have to go back to the Kazarian Mafia. Who financed this? Who was actually behind this? And something that'll get you in deep trouble, it did me when I wrote Letters to Earth, was exposing the roots of this Kazarian Mafia, better known as the Protocol of the Learned Elders of Zion. And so, believe it or not, these are the same powers that were in charge during the first century that actually were responsible for putting Yeshua, or Jesus the Messiah, to death. It's the same political group. And this is a Babylonian-inspired empire, which we are still under today, both by what we commonly call the Kazarian Mafia and the Vatican. And so you have to look at the symbology that's being used. This is something else I wrote in Letters to Earth. Look at the symbols that these organizations are putting forth, and they're all related to either the gods or, a world entity, an off-planet entity, and it always comes to off-planet entities. And it's interesting, more and more I'm hearing from alleged whistleblowers that the Earth is being controlled by aliens. Imagine that. You mean, would these be the same satanic aliens that we're sacrificing our children to? Are these the same satanic aliens that we create wars for? Yeah, they're the same ones. They used to be called the gods. What gods demanded live child sacrifice? You have to start to question that. And even though that's essentially what happened to the first son of God, Jesus as we know him best, but Yeshua, he was a live sacrifice perpetrated by the same group of people. Now that had to happen for a reason, so that we did have a hope. And a lot of people don't quite comprehend that. But Adam, when he ate of that fruit, I'm totally convinced that there was a telomere virus within that fruit. And so when he ate of it, that telomere virus snipped our DNA in half and attached itself to both ends. And the amount of telomeres, and this is important, this is going to be important later on, the amount of telomeres that we have connected to our DNA actually dictate our lifespan. So if you had twice as many telomeres as we do today, you could expect to live pretty much twice as long. But if you had 10 times as many telomeres, you could live, hundreds of years before you'd actually pass, maybe even get close to 1,000 years, just as what is recorded within the scriptures. Because when we look at the days of Noah, men were so bad that those telomeres had to be shortened, and so the lifespan was shortened to approximately 120 years at that time. So we're going to see the reverse of that happen as we go forward in time, and as we hit the real reset of not just this planet, but the entire cosmos. But who are the players? Okay, so we have this one beast, which is essentially the Kazarian Mafia, or controlled by the Kazarian Mafia. It's a worldwide empire. It was the League of Nations. It kind of got bashed during the Second World War. And we got the United Nations after that. And what was the first thing the United Nations did? Declare Israel a state. Well, how's that working out for us now, 75 years after the fact?
Right.
Not too good.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's obvious that Israel is one of those nations controlled by a satanic empire. It's nothing purely short of satanic in what's happening in Gaza.
Yes.
And their main target is children.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. We got to wake up to this. So this is what we're all facing. We're facing an empire bent on sacrificing our children to their alien gods who are controlling this planet. Well, let's jump a little fast forward here. We're going to hit Revelation 16 because there's all sorts of interesting things that happen in Revelation 16. Mm-hmm. And first we know that this, I digress here just for a minute, just to go back to Revelation 13. This beast which descends out of the sea is given the throne of Satan. So think about that. The throne of Satan is occupied by this political beast that is running this planet, or has been running this planet. And in Revelation 16, one of those bowls of anger from God get poured out onto the throne. And that beast's kingdom becomes darkened. And I don't know, how close your listeners listen, but from what I understand, what I've heard, is the United Nations is almost on life support, and they're getting ready to move it out of New York and put it into the Far East. I forget exactly where it's supposed to go, Kuala Lumpur or somewhere out in the Far East. Seems I didn't know, but it's in a place where you wouldn't expect it to be. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And that in itself is interesting in by its location, because the seat of power for the world is changing. It's also being taken out of the Rockefeller and the Rothschild hands.
Well, yeah, we see all those guys dropping dead too, which is like party time. But yeah.
Flies on the floor? Yeah. Dropping dead like flies. And the ones that haven't dropped dead yet, you have to scratch your head and wonder about. Yeah. It's like, righty then. So let's see, who else is going? and so, we see this power shift. We see this power shift, but it's interesting. When you read Revelation 16, and these different denunciations are being put out, they never repent. They never repent. They get worse. So even though they're losing their kingdom, the heads of this organization never repent. And so they have to be hunted down and exterminated. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Or at least treaty signed, power, money taken away. We hear about the Great Reset. Don't expect the Great Reset to come until after we've had this near death of America, and probably just not America, but a good portion of the world. So we've had this experience. And it's supposed to be considerably worse than 9/11. Well, 9/11 was centralized to New York City. Mm-hmm. So what would be like 10 times worse, 20 times worse? There's all sorts of possibilities, including California sinking into the ocean. Well, not exactly sinking into the ocean, but Silicon Valley being flooded out. And so how would you do that? Major earthquake? Tidal wave? There's got to be a reshaping. And so when we look at what is going on logically and what the prophecies are actually saying, we are headed for a difficult time. I'm just going to go to Revelation 16 just for a moment here and actually quote a couple of things. This is interesting. This has to do with the relocation here of the what was the United Nations, and a lot of people know this, and they've been looking at this. It says in the sixth one, this is Revelation 16:12, and the sixth one poured out his bowl upon the great river Euphrates and his waters was dried up, that the way might be prepared for the kings from the rising of the sun. Well, we see the Euphrates is basically dust, little trickle going through the middle of what was once a great river. And what have we seen in the last 10, 15 years? Have we not seen the rise of China? Yeah. And now you see the kings from the rising of the sun. You would think Japan, okay, well, Japan was the land of the rising sun, but the kings of the east. So we're seeing issues in Iran, we're seeing issues in China, we're seeing issues somewhat with Russia, but Russia might be a good guy, allegedly. Not that any of them are good, because they're all still on the wrong side. And we're seeing issues throughout the Far East, but those are all maybe resolved, Rocket Man in North Korea and other unstable places there. But they're coming to power like never before, especially China. China was it was a nuclear country, but it was backwards pretty much up until the turn of the century. And then all of a sudden, all of our goods are being manufactured in China.
Yeah.
So, there you go. But 13 is important. 13 says, and I saw 3 unclean inspired expressions that looked like frogs. Makes me wonder about Pepe. Anyway, come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the wild beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. They are, in fact, expressions inspired by demons and perform signs. And they go forth to the kings of the entire inhabited earth to gather them together to the war of the great day of God Almighty. But it's interesting that they're gathering them together. They're not ready for that day. They're gathering them together. And there's 3 unclean expressions inspired by demonic forces. Could that be like World War I, World War II, and a possible World War III that we're facing? And if you listen to 107, he says, we already won World War III. I'm talking kinetic warfare, not the taking down of a country economically, which is actually what's starting to happen here in the United States. So expect the same thing to happen here as what happened in Russia about 30 years ago. But we're talking kinetic warfare here. And so are we actually going to get to that point? Little difficult to say. And are not obligated to the rules of the countries in which they reside. And what makes it really difficult, especially for the United States and England, is that those city-states rule the countries. So Washington, D.C., it's not part of the United States, but damn, they make our laws for us, don't they? They set our policy for us, don't they? And they're not even part of this country. Think about that.
Well, what are your thoughts on
Patriots, wake up.
Right. What are your thoughts on the upcoming political theater and chaos, and what does that really mean for the true power shift behind the scenes?
Okay, well, the political arena is, in my personal opinion, is nothing more than entertainment. Come on, we got Biden, who's been played by at least 6 different actors. So who's controlling that? Well, you hear, the Rockefellers are controlling that. Okay. Well, let's see. Who's controlling Tyler Perry Studios, considering Tyler Perry is allegedly no longer with us? This comes up over and over again. Kamala Harris. I've just recently heard that she was a masked imposter. We just heard Victoria Nuland resigned her position. Well, the scuttlebutt is she's been executed for treason, and so is her husband. So are these stories real? Are they not real? We'll find out eventually. But this is all part of that bowl of anger which gets poured out upon the satanic throne. And the wild beast, this one wild beast that ascends out of the seas, the United Nations, the League of Nations, that loses its power. Now, it doesn't totally go away, it just loses its power. Well, what power is coming on the scene? Well, welcome Apollyon. And, you know, now we're kind of, without getting redundant, we're kind of like into the last show that we did with the CERN possibly opening up the dimension to Tartarus and releasing the Watchers and the negative forces that would have, or let's call it the negative alien forces, which were deemed necessary to remove from the 10-dimensional world in which we live into a totally different, separate dimension unto themselves. So considering we got the Mandela effect and CERN cranked up twice in order to find the Higgs-boson particle, or the God particle, history changed. Very little, but it changed. And we can see that in all different places around the planet. But what was most obvious for me is, whoa, what happened to the lion? It's not laying with the lamb anymore. It's now a wolf.
So where do the interdimensional beings that were summoned through this process, what are they? What is their role right now?
To help take down the Kazarian mafia. You see, here's the interesting thing, and this is where exopolitics comes into play. I'm going to digress here just a little bit. Jesus, when he was on the face of the earth, was tempted 3 times by Lucifer, or Satan. And one of those temptations, he was taken to an unusually high place, and he was shown all the kingdoms of the world. And he said, for an act of worship, all of these can be yours. And Jesus said, go away, Satan, it is written, it is only Father Yahweh himself that you should worship. And with that, Satan left. But if the satanic empire wasn't under Satan's control, how could he possibly have offered it to Jesus? Now, the question is, when we go back to either the book of Enoch or go back to what's written within Genesis, when man grew in number on the planet, the Watchers, or the sons of the true God, saw that, earth women were hot. And so they took wives for themselves, all whom they chose. Well, now, if Satan had control of the planet, wouldn't they have had to cut a deal with Satan in order to enter his realm of control and take it over? For an act of worship, I'm sure they could get it too. And that's no doubt what they did. And so they fathered a completely new race on this planet known as the Nephilim, the mighty men of old, the men of renown. And these were truly giants, not 9, 10, 12 feet tall. These were giants that were 50 feet, 75 feet, 100 feet tall. According to, it's a little bit difficult because they used they measured in cubits. And then you have to wonder, okay, well, how tall could something get during that time period based on, we're not on the same, we're on the same planet, but it's not really the same Earth because the firmament was intact and that water canopy that caused the Great Flood hadn't come down. So Earth was less massive overall, and that would give to a taller life form to begin with. Less mass, less gravity, you're going to be able to grow taller. But how tall? See, they say a brontosaurus could never live in today's environment because his heart could never be strong enough to pump the blood all the way up to the little pea brain that they had. That could very well be true. They say pterodactyls wouldn't be able to fly because there's not enough pressure within the air to fill their wings. So, you know, that those are calculations that don't really make a whole lot of difference to me as far as just the academic purpose. But things grew larger on this planet once upon a time prior to the flood, and we would have to guess that, yeah, these things were really big. They're not around anymore. They got washed away and destroyed in all that chaos, and any remnants of them have been disposed of by the Smithsonian Institute and whatever other museums felt it necessary to hide our history. See, once you hide the history, the true history, now you can rewrite what you want. And they did. They absolutely did. You know, I was watching just a great video on the continent of Mu and the continent of Lemuria and the continent of Atlantis, all which were eaten by the ocean and sunk under the sea. And it's like, well, wait a minute, where's the evidence for any of this? In Atlantis, at least you've got something that was written by Plato. But you'll never guess unless you saw this video, because I had no idea. I just thought it was, wow, what a fantastic idea. Where did the name Lemuria come from? Do you have any idea?
It sounds like it would come from lemur.
You're 100% correct. Ding, 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 ding. Yes. Yes. It came from a scientist that back in the 1800s that said, why are there lemurs in Madagascar? Why are there lemurs in India? Why are there lemurs in Indonesia? There must have been a landmass to connect them all. Whoa, right. We'll call it Lemuria. That's the evidence.
It makes sense.
That's the evidence for Lemuria.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it must have been a great civilization at that time, and God felt the need to destroy it. Well, we do have, isn't that crazy? And so Madame Blavatsky jumps on that bandwagon, and all the psychics of the late 19th century get involved in this, and they create these stories about these past civilizations, and it becomes written to our history as fact. And there's no fact to it other than stories that people invented, with the possible exception of what was written about Atlantis. Mm-hmm. Now, in my personal opinion, I think Atlantis is really Antarctica. That's just a personal opinion. And if you melted all the ice in Antarctica, you would find ancient alien technology, which would be unbelievable to us today. And no doubt, because the scriptures are clear that life was genetically engineered on this planet. Mm. And evidence would show that. I mean, go back to the Cambrian period. There was such an explosion of life on Earth that we've only had extinction level events since then. Now, if you want to know the true age of Earth, every time you cross the galactic equator, expect an extinction level event to happen. So that would be once about every 13,500, 600 years, something like that. You're going to have something happen on this planet, which is going to cause great loss of life. Mm-hmm. So is each cycle a creative day? I honestly don't know. Does it matter? Nope. You know what matters? We're crossing the galactic equator now. We're done crossing it. We're supposed to be in the middle of it somewhere around 2012, 2013, when they found the God particle and we got the Mandela effect. And it took a number of years. It's not like you're just walking across the equator of Earth. You were traveling through space here. And it's taken at least, if we say, let's say 2012 was the halfway point. Where things started to change on this planet was around 1999. And so let's say 13 years before, 13 years after, which still gives us another year or so before everything really starts. And not to mention you've got a flyby of Nibiru or Planet X supposedly coming by at the same time. So life on this planet ought to be fun. Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about these cosmic forces, while we're talking about these cosmic forces, do you think there is any correlation or significance with the upcoming eclipse?
My personal opinion of the eclipse is it's a natural event. It happens every year somewhere on planet Earth. I'm fortunate enough to be right underneath it as it goes by this year. I haven't seen a total lunar eclipse, or solar eclipse rather, since I was a child. So I've got to go get my specialty glasses and check it out. But yeah, where we are, we're total lunar eclipse here. We're damn near dead smack in the middle of where it's actually going to cross over as the ground zero, essentially.
You mentioned Nibiru and Planet X, and there have been researchers that have been telling us to look to the skies for this celestial body for years, and we haven't witnessed anything. Do you think that this is a possibility that we may eventually see this rogue star in our sky?
Yes, I do, and I was a big opponent of Planet X since since Stitch's days.
Mm.
Except when I got to relook at Malachi chapter 4 verses 1 through 3. Actually, it's verse 3. I'll quote the whole thing, or as closely as I can. I'll paraphrase it. It says, "The day is coming that is burning like the furnace, and to the wicked and the presumptuous they will become as chaff, and neither root nor bough will be left of them. But those of you who have," in different versions say different things, "have fear of my name or respect of my name," referring to our Creator, Father Yahweh, or Yahuwah, He who causes to become, you will be, here's the Nebuah part, "the Son of Righteousness with healing in its wings will make you strong, and like young fattened calves who go pawing the ground." Your young bull is, feeling his oats, he's pawing the ground, he's getting ready to, challenge the big guy. And it goes on to say, "and your enemies will become like dust under your feet." So the question is, how does one event have two totally different outcomes? To the wicked and the presumptuous, they're gone. But to those of us who have respect for God, our Creator, we are healed. And it's tied into this Son of Righteousness with healing in its wings. Sun with wings? Probably about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, I was actually watching, I think it was the Discovery Channel, and they were talking about what the atmosphere was like on the different planets in our solar system. And one of the things that I was totally shocked by is they talked about a brown dwarf star. Why would they bring up a brown dwarf star? And they said, it actually rains iron on a brown dwarf star. And that iron oxide is dumped out, like the sun has its moments where we get doused with solar flares. Well, on a brown dwarf star, it doesn't spit out, hydrogen and helium burning masses. It blows out iron oxide or rust. And the thing about a brown dwarf star, it's an iron star. It's its last stage of life. And could it be out there coming for us? Yeah. You can't deny it. And because, they throw truth into everything. And why would they cover a brown dwarf star when they're talking about the atmosphere on different planets within our solar system? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? So you look for the truth where you don't expect to find it. And that's usually where it is, in a place where we don't expect it to be. Right. And that's what's happened with the Bible. We've had so much of this legend, that these stories, that whether it's the Anunnaki or the gods of the Egyptians or whoever you want to call them as, people from Lemuria and the lemurs are attacking. I don't know, but seriously though, we have the Greys, we got the short Greys, the tall Greys, the Nordics. We've got people from all sorts of different places, and we don't know whether they're really here or not. We're told that these aliens are here. We see some sorts of evidence that something's here, but one thing we know is for sure, by the way that people are acting, this planet is being controlled by very sinister forces. And by the technologies that we've been given, allegedly, we have some very advanced technology. And again, it goes right around, because these technologies were, in my personal opinion, based on what we've been able to decipher of some kind of realization of history. Child sacrificing was adopted by the Nazis in the SS. I'm not going to say that Hitler was actually part of it, because I don't think that he knew whether he was coming or going while he was in power. They kept him pretty well sedated. But I'm sure different factions were well aware of that and were working with alien entities. And I think that the majority of them wound up in, Antarctica. Mm-hmm. It all goes back to Antarctica, whether it was Atlantis or whether, it's a time capsule. Antarctica is a time capsule. And we've got evidence of massive structures, pyramids or temples that people can't figure out how they actually carved these temples out of one big hunk of rock, and they're just amazing with the technology that was used, or even the megalithic structures that have been put up in the way that stones are shaped. How do when you get into the Andes Mountains in Pumapunku and different places like that, you look at where did this technology come from? We can't do it today, and they were able to do it back then. Advanced alien life forms. The Bible is full of the record. It's all there. They're all part of the Satanic Empire, except for Apollyon. Now, it's interesting. The Watchers in the Book of Enoch fell in love with Earth women. And they at least wanted to create a family with them, all that they could. And so they had some regard for the human species, as opposed to the Satanic Empire, which just looks at us as a bunch of slaves. So our women were breeding stock. But they had a totally different view of humans back then as to what is actually happening today. So if that pit of the abyss was open, and Apollyon has now taken power, and we have every reason to believe that he would, based on Revelations, both Revelation 9, chapter 9 and chapter 17. And this coalition that's actually happening now, we did see this. When Trump was in power, what did he do? He went on a world tour, right? So when we look at what is actually written, this kingdom of Apollyon, which is actually the 8th kingdom, it springs from the 7. Now, the interesting thing is, when you count the kingdoms prior to this, you have Egypt, Assyria, Babylonia, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and the last world power is the Anglo-American world power. That gets ahead for 300 years. England and the United States has ruled the seas of the world. And the 8th king comes from the 7th one. Interesting. And so we got to see Trump doing the sword dance, a dance that is only reserved for kings.
Yeah.
Didn't we? And what's Trump's main focus? It's to take down the Kazarian mafia, to set America free, to reestablish our Constitution, to set the whole world free. Once we can get free from this, we can help other countries break free from this, right? That's been the narrative, of the whole patriot movement. And now we're facing a fight. We're facing a fight against the Kazarian mafia, who's flooded our border with immigrants, who's not just sent immigrants, but probably soldiers, United Nations soldiers, in under the guise of immigrants, illegal aliens, the walking kind, not the flying kind. And so we're being set up. We're being set up for something very, very serious, which is probably going to come to a neighborhood close to all of our listeners here tonight. And so that's what we need to be most prepared for right now. And people saying, "Oh, you got to get out of the stock market, buy silver and gold." Well, I don't know a whole lot of people that are personally in the stock market. I haven't been in it in years. And being retired here at this juncture, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room on what the government gives you in buy. But here's the thing. You cannot eat gold. You cannot eat silver. Okay, now you're going to argue with me. Monochromatic gold. Yes, you can ingest it. You can ingest silver in solution. And they are beneficial, that they will help you. Yep. But you can't live on it. So what can you live on? Hey, I just bought another 20-pound bag of rice the other day. Put your stores together. If I had, and I don't endorse products, but if I only could buy one thing, it would be a life straw. It will fit in your pocket. It's a little tube with a mouthpiece on it, and it will clean out 99.99% of anything, any contaminants to what you drink.
Yeah.
That would be the number one thing that I would buy, because you could walk into up to a puddle in a Walmart parking lot and drink the water out of it if you had to. So,
going back
to the number one thing.
I want to go back to Trump for a minute. To me, I see all these high-level players are filling a cosmic role. They are performing a theatrical role for what they are supposed to introduce our collective consciousness to, and what's supposed to unfold. But my question is, do you think that these people are aware of this, or are they just doing what they believe is best for what's supposed to be society? Do you think that they are aware of the spiritual level of what's unfolding?
I think some of them are aware. It's interesting when you actually read what's written in Revelation 17. They are carrying out God's will. Whether they know it or not, they're doing God's will. And God's will is to get rid of the Kazarian mafia and take down religion. They work hand in hand. Religion has not served anybody. It hasn't. Right. Tell me one good thing that's come out of the Vatican.
I cannot.
Nothing. Yeah. Right. And Islam is just another version of Catholicism. As a matter of fact, it said, based on what my research was, the church created Islam. But look at their symbols. Why is Islam's symbol a crescent moon and a star? Oh, wait a minute. That's the sign of ISIS, isn't it? Or better yet, Semiramis, the queen of ancient Babylon, ancient Samaria. And so they're still worshiping these ancient alien gods. So these aliens actually set themselves, or these interdimensionals, set themselves up as gods over us because we didn't know any better. And we allow, wow, look at the magic tricks they can do.
Yeah.
Look at the stones that they can levitate. Wow. They say the magic words, the stones levitate, and people push them into place. That's how that was built, huh? Yeah.
So we should rather have an understanding of this apocalypse as being an end of religion instead of the end of the world.
Oh, yeah, the world's going to be here. This planet is not going anywhere. What we are going to see is the end of religion. Religion's got to come down. It does not serve mankind. It's been at the my own family, because 500 years ago we supported Martin Luther in the revolt against the church, and for that we were hunted down for over 250 years. The family history is they killed us wherever they could find us, whether it was in the field, in the streets, or in our own beds. So, boy, that's awful Christian. Thank you. What about the Reformation? Yeah. What about the Inquisition before the Reformation and after the Reformation? How many people were burned at the stake just because they read the Bible or they had a copy of it? The only thing that you could turn around and say in our more modern history, there was a book that you could get killed for in Soviet Russia, especially right after the Bolshevik Revolution. If you had a copy of this book, it was a death sentence. if it wasn't a death sentence, you could expect it, well, one way or the other, because if you were found with a copy of it, if they didn't just kill you, you were going to be sent to a concentration camp, a gulag, and spend the rest of your life working in a salt mine, or worse. And that book is alleged to be a plagiarized forgery. I mean, I don't see how that actually happens, but that's what they make the claim, that it was a forgery and it was plagiarized. Well, wait a minute. That makes no sense at all. But regardless, the name of the book is The Protocol of the Learned Elders of Zion. And I wrote about it in Letters to Earth. And for that, they tried to get rid of me. And yeah, it was amazing. My my first interview was in New York City. I was on the stage at the UBC Theater, and I was being interviewed by at least one of the members of the Kazarian Mafia, the producer of the TV show Monk. And I was surprised at how fast that they were able to read that book. It was him and a co-host. They read that book, and they asked me questions that I was shocked that they were asking me about. I was like, there's no way that they read the book that fast. But yeah, they did. And after that, I couldn't buy an interview. I couldn't buy an interview. 40% of what you're seeing coming across the History Channel, anything to do with conspiracy, anything to do with aliens, anything to do with our ancient history, was taken from Letters to Earth. And I never saw a dime from it. But I sent them a copy of Letters to Earth along with a CD, which explained everything. And about 5 years, 6 years later, when my publicist contacted and I got a phone call, they know who you are. They know who you are. I'm like, oh, hell, which they, you know? And so I called them back. That was the message. And so I called them back up and I said, you know, he told me the same thing. They know who you are. I'm like, okay, which they are they? The History Channel. I talked to the president of the History Channel. I said, I've got somebody you have to have on one of your shows. He's the author of Letters to Earth. And the president of the History Channel said, you mean Peter Kling? Yeah, that's the guy. So, you know, here's the crazy thing. I've been in this interdimensional fight for the last 50 years. I had alien contact when I was 18. They told me they were going to kill me. Nice. Why would they tell me that? Well, that's a show in its own right, but but my life isn't important to everybody else in their life. I'm just the messenger. Oh, the messenger that knows the truth. Huh. Wouldn't that be reason enough to kill you? Look what happened to the whistleblower from Boeing. Right. The 787 the 787 Dreamliner, and you have to forgive my bird. It's actually a clock. So anyway, yeah, it sings a different bird's tune every hour, which is kind of interesting. We had one that was a loon that, you know, gave a loon call out, but that one unfortunately has passed away. So we have one that has different birds, 12 of them. Anyway, right. Sorry to digress. That was what you just heard in the background.
No, that's all right. Now, I wanted to get your thoughts on the possibilities of people that we could even be interacting with on a daily basis that may have been part of a hybridization program. And if there has been a hybridization program ongoing to integrate some of these interdimensionals into a human that could be walking amongst us.
Very possible. But what's more likely is that these people have gone through a satanic ritual which allows them to be possessed by what we call archons or higher level entities that are ruling this planet. You go back to the book of Daniel. Daniel's waiting for a message from God, and he's not getting it. He's been praying and not getting it. And finally, Gabriel shows up and says, sorry, I'm late. But I was fighting with the Prince of Persia, and he wouldn't let me pass. So I had to go get Michael, the foremost one of your people, to fight with the Prince of Persia, so I could deliver the message. And he says, he delivers the message, and he says, okay, well, I got to go back and fight the Prince of Persia. And look, the Prince of Greece is coming. So that means what? There's a Prince of Rome, and there's a Prince of the United Kingdom, and there's a Prince of the United States, and a Prince of Russia, and a Prince of every principality on this planet, all interdimensional. So what right have they gone through to give when they sold their soul to Satan? And what did they allow to take possession of their body, or whom did they allow to take possession of their body? Princess Diana, in her memoirs, allegedly called the Queen of England and her consort Prince Philip as reppies. Why? Because they could shapeshift into reptile-looking humans. So, yeah, you see, you wouldn't necessarily know it unless they were having a kind of a difficult time. The Fifth Element. I don't know if you've seen that movie, or people have, your listeners have seen that movie. I think it's a great movie. You know, remember the scene when they're all trying to get to the resort there? I forgot the name of the resort, but they go into the space center, and finally the Mongoloids come, and you know, they look like, you know, humans, but they're having trouble keeping their shape, and they keep on reverting back. Yeah, well, you know, you get them upset, and that's probably what's going to happen. Say the name of Jesus in their presence, or Yeshua, or even better, say the name of Yahweh or Yahuwah, and watch what happens. There's power in those names. And why those names are important to us, it establishes our connection back to our Creator and his firstborn Son, who ransomed his soul in order to pay that cost of perfect human DNA. And so that's kind of like where we're at, is forget religion. It's going to come down to everyone's spirituality. What do you believe at your core? And like they say, there's no atheists in foxholes, and we're in the middle of a war.
100%.
And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, for the last few minutes, let's discuss how it's going to eventually get better, what we should expect, and how we can contribute to the inevitable victory that we'll have, because we know in the Bible the good guys win.
Yeah, and not only do we win, well, you see, first of all, you got to step back. It's not our fight, okay? It's not our fight. This is an interdimensional war, and there's no way we can win an interdimensional war. What we can expect to have happen is we're going to see all this nonsense in the United States break down, and we're going to see a return to the old Constitution of the United States. We'll see that happening across the world. We'll have a short time of what might be considered peace and security. They may just we'll have an economic reset. So everybody's going to go through a real difficult time. Then we're going to all be fat, dumb, and happy, and have money in our pockets and think, "Whoa, we're doing great." And so that gives, and that will essentially take us into the downfall of religion as well. I said, how do you get rid of a religious empire? Let the children speak. Let the children speak, and then we'll find out exactly just how satanic the religious empire on this planet is. So once that's taken down, the next step is they get ready for a battle, an interdimensional battle. We might be joining a group like the Federation of Planets. It's going to be one big psyop to get everybody on board. Oh, we got aliens attacking us. We're going to have to fight back. Well, if it's not your fight, stay out of it. Because, yes, we're going to be facing an interdimensional war, probably at the same time as that we have a pole flip, and we also have a pass-by of Nibiru, or Planet X, within that same time frame, because the Earth is going to be rocking and rolling. And it's only through our personal connection back to our Creator that we're going to be able to survive any of this. Acts, the 2nd chapter, if you get to a real Bible, a translation that uses God's name, Acts, the 2nd chapter, verse 21 says, everyone calling on the name of Yahweh, or Yahuwah, that's the ancient Hebrew, or Jehovah, what we use today, shall be saved. It doesn't say once saved, always saved. It doesn't say, oh, believe in God and you'll be good. Call on the name of Jesus. No. Everyone who calls on the name of Jehovah shall be saved. Simple. So when you're faced with your worst nightmare, call on the name of God. Call on the name of Yahweh. Call on the name of Jesus, at least. Look toward, make that connection. Take that birthright that we have as descendants of Adam and as the descendants of the Creator itself. We have a birthright. And Jesus' death ensured that birthright. Once we make it through this time period, the earth will have that 1,000 years of peace. Oh, well, look, I'm going to be 68 in a couple of weeks. I've been doing this for a very long time. Do I believe I can live for 1,000 years? Yeah. You know why? Because just keep on adding to our telomeres. And we get younger and younger and younger. And then finally, one day, we will have our DNA totally repaired, totally healed. The possibility is there. We're dealing with genetics. We're dealing with the people who invented genetics, genetic engineering. The life forms, I say people, it's actually the life forms. And that brings us right back to our Creator. See, Adam was a direct creation from Yahuwah, Father Yahweh. Only us and Jesus were direct creations. That's it. So the way that the line of order, there's Yahweh, Jesus, and you, and me, and the rest of us who make that claim. That's it. You don't need a priest. You don't need a rabbi. You don't need an imam or any member of the clergy to get between you and our Creator. We may need help. We may need, from time to time, we may need to learn, get accurate knowledge. Hey, if you're having difficulties trying to figure all this out, give Maggie Hart a call. Trust me, send her an email. She'll be more than happy to help you. She works great on a personal level, on a one-to-one basis. But as far as what we need to be prepared now, prepare for the worst disaster ever and pray for the best outcome. That's what we're going to be facing. So glad you got gold. I'm glad you have silver. Glad you moved your money out of the stock market. Now, what does your refrigerator look like? What does your cupboard look like? What food stores do you have? And it makes it difficult, especially for older people on a fixed income. So buy yourself an extra bag of rice when you go to the grocery store. Buy an extra can of sardines. I hate sardines. They'll keep you alive. Direct protein and calcium. They'll last forever. Buy a couple of cans of Spam. I hate Spam. Yeah, good. They're still eating Spam from 1945 in Hawaii. It's vintage.
Right.
Yes, the Spam is the national meat of Hawaii, and that's because of World War II. Yeah. So we may not be able to get that filet, whatever the case might be, but at least we'll be able to survive through this. And when we get that little rest period, and that they fill our coffers with money, don't go crazy. Be prepared for more to come, because there's a lot more to come. But when it all comes down to it, the only way we're going to survive this is if we make that personal claim right back to our Creator. It's a spiritual war. It's a biblical war. You might as well follow the biblical laws. And the most important, when Jesus was asked, what's the most important commandment? What did he say? You must love Yahweh your God with your whole heart, soul, and mind. And the second like it is that you must love your neighbor as you do yourself. Okay, so your heart, your soul, and your mind, your logic, your emotional, and your very being, make that connection. It's one in love. Never said you had to worship. He said you had to love your God. The second, to love your neighbor. Why? Because we are all related. Well, most of us are all related. Chances are not too many of us live next to the Rothschilds or, the Duke of Windsor or whatever other, the Rockefellers. Some of us might, but I doubt we know them personally. We're probably better off for it. Right. So, it's a spiritual connection And that's what we need when it's a biblical war.
100%.
Without that, we're lost. Yeah. With that, we win.
Yeah,
it's
excellent.
Just that simple. We win. So, yeah, we need that spiritual connection if we want to win what is coming our way.
Perfect. That's a great note to end on, Peter. And before we close out, remind everyone, if they'd like to find out more about you and Maggie, how they can do so.
Well, if you can always write me. It's one ONE at peterkling.com, PETERKLING.com. And the book is Letters to Earth. You Can Survive Armageddon. Write me. I will happily send you a PDF copy of it. If you want to get a hold of Maggie for some spiritual, hey, it doesn't matter whether it's spiritual or not. You have any family issues you're having, personal life issues, get a hold of her. She is so good. She really is. I can't sing her praises enough. And that would be Maggie, MAGGIE _heart, HEART at outlook.com. And she'd be more than happy to, help you through any situation. Give you a call at her earliest convenience, and just a short description of what you feel you need help with, and she'd be more than happy to do that. So, she does charge a fee for her time. It's very nominal, and the results are outstanding. I promise you, you will totally appreciate the results that you get. I did. So with that, Chris, I want to thank you for having me on your show. Look forward to the next time. We'll do an update in a month or two, or whatever you'd like. Just how to reach me, and we'll continue this conversation. And I wish you the best on the interview that you have with Maggie. You'll see why I say what I do once you do that interview. So all listeners, please watch for that interview. It'll be in a couple of weeks. Yes. And with that, I'm going to say love and blessings to all. Have a fantastic day, week, year, and a fantastic life.
Thank you so much, Peter. We're definitely going to do this again. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.